Did you know that something as simple as salt and thyme can transform a handful of cabbage into one of the most complex, most nourishing foods on the planet? No heat, no vinegar, no preservatives. Just cabbage, salt, and the quiet intelligence of fermentation doing exactly what it has done for thousands of years. Welcome to Good Gut Feeling. I'm so glad you're here. This is a space where we explore the magic of fermentation and what it means to truly nourish and listen to your body. Today, we are making one of my absolute favorites, the one that started it all for me. Classic sauerkraut from scratch, at home with nothing but a cabbage in a jar. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to make sauerkraut and you'll understand why it works. Because when you understand the why, the how becomes effortless. We'll cover the ingredients, the technique, the science behind the fermentation, and how to know when your sauerkraut is exactly where you want it. I'll also share a few serving ideas that might just surprise you. Before we touch a single cabbage leaf, I want to share something that I think will change how you see this jar forever. Sauerkraut, which simply means sour cabbage in German, is one of the oldest fermented foods in human history. It was made in ancient China, carried by roaming legions, used by sailors to prevent scurvy on long sea voyages. Captain Cook reportedly never lost a sailor to scurvy, and sauerkraut was part of why. What all those people knew, intuitively, long before microbiology existed, is that fermenting cabbage with salt creates something far more nourishing than the cabbage alone. A living food rich in beneficial bacteria, vitamins, and enzymes. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a wooden barrel or a ship. You need a jar, some salt, and about 15 minutes of your time. Let me take just a moment to explain what's actually happening in the jar, because once you understand it, the whole process becomes so much easier to trust. When we add salt to cabbage and massage it, two things happen. First, the salt draws water out of the cabbage cells, creating the natural brine that will surround and protect everything. And second, the salt creates an environment where most harmful bacteria cannot survive. But here's what I find truly remarkable. The bacteria that thrive in salt, the lactobacillus family, are already naturally present on the surface of the cabbage. We don't add them, we simply create the conditions for them to flourish. These bacteria consume the natural sugars in the cabbage and produce lactic acid. The lactic acid lowers the pH, preserves the sauerkraut, and creates that distinctive, beautiful tang we love. The whole process is called lacto-fermentation. And as a wonderful bonus, this process actually increases the bioavailability of vitamins already present in the cabbage: vitamin C, vitamin K, and B vitamins. The fermentation unlocks and multiplies what was already there. Isn't that extraordinary? Nature doing exactly what it was designed to do. Now let's talk about what you'll need. And as always, the quality of what goes in shapes everything that comes out. For the cabbage, any variety works beautifully. White cabbage is traditional and gives a lovely crunch. Red cabbage creates a stunning deep purple sauerkraut. Savoy, pointed, green, they each bring their own character. I always choose organic if I can. Cabbage is on the dirty dozen list of produce with higher pesticide residues in conventional farming. And since we're growing living cultures inside this jar, we want the cleanest possible environment for them. No pesticide residues interfering with what we're trying to cultivate. Organic makes a genuine difference here, both for your gut and for the culture you're growing. For the salt, this is important. Use a natural sea salt or rock salt with no additives. Look for a label that says nothing more than sea salt or rock salt. No iodine, no anti-caking agents, no flow agents. Iodine is added to table salt to prevent deficiency, but it also has antibacterial properties. And we absolutely do not want that here. We are cultivating bacteria. We want nothing in the way. The caraway seeds, juniper berries, and shredded carrot are entirely optional, but they each add something beautiful. Caraway is warm and slightly anise-like, very traditional in German sauerkraut. Juniper adds an earthy, piney depth, and carrot brings color and a gentle sweetness that balances the tang. Let your instincts guide you. Begin by removing the outer leaves of your cabbage. Set one or two aside. We'll use them later to tuck over the top of the jar. Slice the cabbage in half, then into quarters. Remove the tough core from each quarter, then shred it as finely as you can. Thin, even strands mean faster, more consistent fermentation. A sharp knife or a mandolin both work beautifully. Weigh your shredded cabbage and calculate 2% of that weight in salt. For 1 kilogram, that's 20 grams, roughly 1 heaped tablespoon. Sprinkle the salt over the cabbage and then massage it in. Squeeze, fold, press, toss. At first, it will feel quite dry. Within 2 or 3 minutes, you'll feel the cabbage softening and starting to release liquid. Keep going until it's glossy and sitting in its own brine. This is one of those deeply satisfying steps. You're building the brine right in the bowl. No water needed. The cabbage provides everything. If you're using caraway seeds, juniper berries, or shredded carrot, add them now and fold them gently through the cabbage. Transfer the cabbage into your sterilized glass jar, a handful at a time. After each handful, press it down firmly with your fist or use a wooden tamper. You want the cabbage packed tightly, with the brine rising above it. Leave at least 2 to 3 centimeters of headspace at the top. The sauerkraut will expand slightly as it ferments. Now take one of those outer cabbage leaves you set aside and tuck it gently over the top of the shredded cabbage. This creates a natural barrier between the cabbage and the air above. Then place a fermentation weight on top to keep everything submerged beneath the brine. If you don't have a dedicated weight, a small Ziploc bag filled with brine works beautifully as a flexible alternative. The goal is simple: liquid above, vegetables below. Anything that rises above the brine is exposed to air, and air is where unwanted bacteria live. The brine is your protection. The weight is your guardian. Seal the jar. If you're using a regular lid, keep it loose, enough for gases to escape, but not so loose that anything gets in. A fermentation airlock is ideal if you have one, and cheesecloth secured with an elastic band works beautifully too. Place the jar somewhere cool and dark, a kitchen cupboard, a cellar, or a cool corner of your counter. The ideal temperature is between 18 to 22 degrees Celsius or 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Consistent and cool. And now we wait. In the first 1 to 3 days, something wonderful begins. Small bubbles will appear around the cabbage. The jar whispers, and it starts to smell pleasantly tangy. That's your lactic acid bacteria waking up, feeding, multiplying. That's life, doing what life does. Around day 5, your sauerkraut will have its first personality. Taste a small forkful. If it's bright and tangy and you love it, seal the jar and put it in the fridge. It's ready. If you want a deeper, more complex flavor, let it continue. Taste every few days. Most sauerkraut finds its fullness somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks, depending on the temperature of your space and your own personal preference. There is no single right answer. Your palate is the guide. Now, what do you do with this golden, probiotic-rich treasure you've just created? Serve it beside roasted vegetables. It cuts through the richness beautifully. And the contrast of warm and cool, soft and crunchy is extraordinary. Tuck it into a sandwich with good sourdough bread, a little mustard, and something hearty. The tong lifts the whole thing. Or, my personal favorite, straight from the jar, as a zingy, alive little snack between meals. A forkful of sauerkraut mid-afternoon does more for your gut than almost anything else you could eat at that moment. One important thing, always add sauerkraut after cooking, never during. Heat above approximately 42 degrees Celsius will damage the live cultures. Keep it raw, keep it alive. Before we close, a few things I want to share that might put your mind at ease. If you notice a thin white film forming on the surface of your brine, don't worry. This is almost always cam yeast, harmless, but a sign that something may have risen above the brine. Simply skim it off, press the cabbage back down, and make sure your fermentation weight, or your Ziploc bag, is doing its job. If your cabbage isn't producing enough brine after 24 hours, make a small amount of extra brine. 1 teaspoon of salt dissolved in 200 milliliters of filtered water, and add just enough to cover the cabbage. Simple. A fermenting jar smells savory, tangy, and alive. That's completely normal and completely beautiful. What you want to avoid is a genuinely putrid or rotten smell that would signal something has gone wrong. Trust your nose. It knows. And always start with sterilized equipment. 10 minutes in boiling water is all it takes. A clean start gives your beneficial bacteria the best possible conditions to thrive. Today we made something ancient together, something patient, something alive. A jar of sauerkraut that will sit quietly on your shelf, becoming more complex and more nourishing with every passing day. Made by your hands, from 2 ingredients, requiring nothing more from you now than a little patience. And when you open that jar, and you taste the first bright, tangy, alive forkful of something you made yourself, I think you'll understand why I love fermentation so deeply. If this is your very first ferment, welcome. You've started something that could change your kitchen, your health, and your relationship with food in ways you might not yet be able to imagine. I would love to hear how your sauerkraut turns out. Leave a comment below, tell me what variety of cabbage you used, whether you added the caraway or went your own way, and how it tasted on that first day. Every story here makes this community richer. If this resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you liked this video and subscribed to my channel. Every click helps this little community grow, and the more we grow, the more we can explore together. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, take good care of yourself, inside and out.